Lasagna is a beloved classic, but today I'm giving it a modern twist. This veggie lasagna is packed with rich, hearty vegetables and layered with a homemade tomato sauce infused with red wine for incredible depth of flavor. Unlike the meat-laden versions most Americans are familiar with, this dish is lighter and lower in fat without sacrificing taste. If you love comfort food but want a fresher, more vibrant take, this lasagna is for you. So stick around and I'll show you how to make it. The first thing that I'm going to have to do is to make my tomato wine sauce, and this dish calls for 2 teaspoons of ground fennel. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to grind up some fennel seeds. To make my tomato wine sauce, I need 2 teaspoons of olive oil and 1 finely chopped onion, as well as 2 medium garlic cloves. I'm using minced garlic, and I'm going to saute my onion and garlic in the olive oil for a few minutes. Now I'm going to add the fennel along with 1 teaspoon of dried oregano and 1 teaspoon of dried basil and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Of course, you can add more salt if you want to. You be the judge. And though I don't show this in the video, you need to pour in 1/3 cup of red wine and then bring it to a boil. After this comes to a boil, you're going to pour in 1 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. I'm also going to add 1/4 teaspoon black pepper. I think my sauce is looking a little bit too thick, so I'm going to add 1/3 cup of water just to thin it down a little bit. Of course, you be the judge when it comes to your sauce. Now I'm going to bring my mixture to a boil. I'm going to cover it with a lid, reduce the heat, and simmer for about 20 minutes. And while my sauce is cooking, I'm going to get to work on my lasagna. I'm using about 10 ounces of baby spinach. I usually like to tear my stems off, but that's up to you. You should boil the spinach, wilt the spinach for about 2 minutes or so. Then you're going to drain the spinach and you're going to let it cool off and then squeeze out the excess water. Before you start making this dish, please know that it helps to prepare your vegetables ahead of time. Now I just added 1/3 cup dry red wine to a pot, and now I'm going to add my vegetables. I'm adding 2 cups of cubed zucchini, 1 cup of cubed bell peppers, 1 cup of chopped tomatoes, and 4 cups of sliced mushrooms. And now I'm adding a little less than 1 teaspoon of dried basil. You can add about a teaspoon of salt to the vegetable mixture if you wish. Then you're going to bring it to a boil, cover with a lid, reduce heat, and allow it to simmer for about 10 minutes. Now let's work on our ricotta mixture. Of course, you're going to add your drained spinach to a bowl. This is why I like to use baby spinach, because the pieces are small. And I've also added 2 cups of part skim ricotta cheese. You can use low-fat cottage cheese if you prefer, and about 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. Of course, you can add more Parmesan if you like, but I think that 1/4 cup is enough. I'm not going to add any seasoning to the ricotta mixture. Of course, you can if you want to. I think that everything else has enough seasoning, and I'm definitely not going to add any salt, but of course you can if you want. Now my sauce is ready. I've tasted it, and I added just about a 1/2 teaspoon of sugar to balance out the acidity of the tomatoes, and now I think it's perfect, and I'm ready to layer my lasagna. For this lasagna, you want to use a 9x13 non-reactive baking dish, which is what I'm using. And you're going to take about 1 cup of the sauce and spread it around on the bottom evenly as much as you can. Try to use the sauce sparingly. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I run out of sauce too quickly, but try to use it sparingly. Now it's time to do my first layer of lasagna noodles. I'm using the oven-ready lasagna, and I like this brand. These noodles are thinner and they cook quicker. I like this better than the thicker noodles. And of course, this is easier than boiling the noodles in boiling water on top of the stove. It's much easier. So I'm going to put about 3. That's the most that I can fit. Now I'm going to do the first layer of ricotta cheese, and I'm using half the mixture that's in the bowl. And I'm going to spread this around evenly on top of the noodles. Once that's done, I'm going to add 1 generous cup of undrained vegetables on top of the cheese mixture. And I'm going to spread that around evenly. And now it's time to repeat the process. I'm going to add 3 noodles. The dish does get a little bit wider at the top, so I'm adding pieces of broken noodle just to kind of fill in the gaps there, as you can see. And I'm just going to repeat the process. I'm going to add more sauce, put that on top of the noodles, and then I'm going to add the rest of the ricotta cheese mixture. And now I'm going to add another cup of vegetables. and a few more lasagna noodles, as many as you can fit. And once again, I'm filling up this space with broken pieces of lasagna noodles. It's too small for the regular size noodles, so I am using broken pieces. And now it's time to do the final layer of tomato sauce. Of course, you want to make sure you have good, even coverage all over your noodles. Okay, we're almost there. The final step is to add some cheese to the top. I'm using part skim mozzarella cheese. Of course, you can use whatever you want. I'm using probably about 1.5 cups. I think that less is more, but if you think you want to add more than that, go ahead. And you can also top it off with some Parmesan cheese if you like. I'm going to cover this dish with aluminum foil, and I'm going to bake it in a preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour or until the noodles are tender. And you do want to keep an eye on this, especially if you are baking it for the first time. And here's the finished product. You should let this cool down for about 10 minutes before you serve it. And I must say that this lasagna was absolutely delicious. It does seem like a lot of work, but I think it is well worth the effort. And it's especially great for those who like meatless meals. It would be great to serve to guests. And by the way, here's a delicious low-fat chocolate pudding made from scratch. This would be a great dessert to follow up after you have the lasagna. And I'll teach you how to make this, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Oh, and it's great with chopped up strawberries added to it. Thanks for watching.